So the producer came on and said, we're way behind schedule. It looks good enough. Roll sound. And the director said, we're not ready yet. Don't roll sound. Roll sound, don't roll. And I'm looking back and forth between the two of them. And the producer looked at me and said, I sign your paycheck. Roll sound. And I went, speed. My name's Michael Carmona. I'm a production sound mixer for film and television. I've been doing it since 2008. The primary job of the production sound mixer is to get clean dialogue. If there's an unusual thing happening on set, they would be expected to get those sound effects. If you're filming in the middle of nowhere and there's camels, you should go ahead and get some wild sound of those camels. That would help post-production. I'm not a front of house engineer, someone who would do a concert. That's a whole different craft entirely. Television shows, reality television, documentaries. I love working on documentaries. It's probably my favorite type of content to do, or commercials.
You were 4 years old when I taught that to you, and you actually remembered the song. So I would love to play it again with you.
Me too.
For real here this time.
Yes, the whole thing.
The whole thing. All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's try this thing.
I went to film school with dreams of being a director or something way above the line, but then I couldn't get a job. So I decided to take a look at some other departments, and for some reason, sound really, it just clicked. Right when I started going into the industry, the recession hit. And so I was able to get a job at the college I was a student at, working for the dean. I worked in administration. No one at that college knew sound. Nobody was interested in it. So if they ever had a sound problem, they would walk into my office while I was doing other work and say, hey, Michael, can you save us? And I'd be like, no. They started scheduling their productions at night and then saying, well, can you do this job after you finish your day job? And I was like, I'm not working for free. They're like, we'll give you $50. And I was like, okay. You know? And I didn't have to worry about equipment because they were using the school's equipment. I was starting to get booked so much I would take a personal day off, some sick time. I'd work on the weekends. If I have to choose one or the other, it was my dream to come to Hollywood and work in films, and that's what I decided to do. What can you expect from a job? Well, there is no such thing, of course, as a typical job. They're all very different. It's one thing I love about the job is it's not the same thing day in and day out. That said, there are certain things that you can expect on every job. I usually get a call from the line producer or whoever has got the details. You'll find out what they need, what equipment's necessary. If there is a pre-production phase, a lot of times the sound mixer is not invited. The sound mixer is kind of unusual in that they are an owner-operator, unless it's a huge project. The sound mixer will show up with their own kit. My kit will be completely built and completely pre-wired. I show up on set, it takes me very little time to build, and I'm usually waiting on camera. The other part is trying to figure out what's going on immediately when you land. What is the location? What are the forces outside of the location that are gonna bleed into the soundtrack? What I mean is, right now, if you look at the picture, this is your whole world. If you don't like something, you frame it out and it doesn't exist. It doesn't work that way with sound. Sound comes into the picture. If you're hearing something that is not seen in the picture, it is very distracting for the audience member, and it will simply not do. There is always noise. If I stop talking right now, that's your noise. My speaking is the signal. You want much more signal than noise, as much as possible without distortion, without clipping. It is very hard to get control of these things. If you have a neighbor that has hired a maintenance crew and there's leaf blowers going off, are you gonna wait for it to go? If it's a situation where we have A-list talent and it's in a loud location, you do the best you can and hope you can fix it in post. If actors speak over each other, that scene may not cut. We will bring these concerns up to the first assistant director or the second assistant director. But if you're behind, it doesn't matter if you're on a soundstage, if you are behind, and they will usually say, we don't have time, just go with it, can you get wild lines, which is when we take the actor aside during some downtime and just have them read their lines without picture, hoping that the dialogue editor can cut it in later. It's a very strange psychological ballet. If you hand over the audio files and you knew you were in a tough location, it's not the sound mixer's fault. But we are, in a weird way, sometimes held responsible for it. I don't know if this is exclusive to the sound department, but it's a mantra I live by, is I try not to bring up a problem without also having a solution. But sometimes it's like, this is really bad and I can't get you out of this. There's a joke when these things happen, we'll raise our hand about it, And the producer or the director or whoever will not want to deal with it. They'll just be like, we're going. And so the joke is, it is our job to tell you that there's a problem, and it's your job to tell us that you don't give a shit.
I was working on my laptop and everything went soft. And I think I'm going blind.
Well, we both know what caused that, I think.
Yeah, well, you ain't kidding.
You need someone with experience, someone with decorum, someone with skills. The sound mixer should not be booming. That's holding the boom microphone, but we often are, especially the line of work I'm in as a what's called a run and gun mixer. I'll work for the news or whatever. I will physically have the kit attached to me, and I'll be holding a boom pole. Does this person know how to boom well, place the microphone correctly? Or if not, if you're just mixing, do you have the ear to know that it could be better and instructing your boom operator to do it a different way? Usually you have a good boom operator and this is a non-issue. Knowing your levels, being able to get what's called a good signal to noise ratio. As humans, we're programmed to look at who's speaking. But you shouldn't do that if you're a sound mixer. I'm looking at the person who's not speaking because they're gonna do this right before they speak. And when they do that, I have a split second to turn the person who was speaking down and bring the other person up if necessary. And multiply that by the number of people speaking in one scene. It could be 3 or 4 people or even more. You also have to be very organized. Is your media labeled well? Are the audio tracks labeled well? Are you adaptable? Crucially, do you have a good attitude? Can you be personable? Can you be a fly on the wall? It's not that you work for the director of photography, but you're on their side, that their vision is important to you. The sound serves the picture. Now that said, the audience will not forgive bad sound. So it's not something that should be an afterthought either, which is unfortunately a symptom of our industry.
It's not about money, it's mentally and physically a lot of energy to be here.
With exception to documentary or news, what's called ENG work, the microphones need to be hidden. Otherwise the illusion is broken. It's actually very, very challenging. I'll give you a real one. Come on now. Wireless bag, mostly Sennheiser lower grade wireless for the camera hubs, because it's not. I want everything to sound good, but this is not as important as a talent being recorded directly to my kit. More of the lapel microphones, so like 3 or 4 in these cases, plus accessories. Mounting for the transmitters, belt pack. I believe these are ankle and thigh. You may attach it to the clothing. You may attach it directly to their skin with medical tape. In one case, I had to run the wire through some glasses and have it taped to this part of the glasses. I think the biggest hurdle is just getting the noise under control, trying to get. See, noise? Even if you're in a soundstage, the green room might be audible. People shuffling, people talking. It's really hard to get it all to stop. So diplomacy first and foremost. If you're in a environment where there's a lot of talent and every single one of them has to be wired, one of your biggest challenges that day is going to be coordinating all that wireless, which is very, very challenging in Southern California because there's a very limited amount of spectrum available and it is very congested. So trying to do that all quickly and stay on top of the battery changes. Wardrobe is very challenging. In all things being equal, cotton is your friend, and sheeny material, silks, leather, those are your enemy. If you can talk to the wardrobe department in advance and reiterate that, that is definitely to your benefit. If it's a piece of wardrobe that is crucial to the story, that wardrobe is going to be what plays. It doesn't matter what it is. And I've had situations where it's someone wearing all leather and then they sit in a leather couch. It is not going to be good for dialogue. It's going to be squeak city. What if they're not wearing many clothes at all? I'll give you an example. There was one shoot we were filming, a reality show, where all of the girls were wearing swimsuits. And I was mixing 8 people, so I could not boom it myself. To get through that, I had to use a microphone called a Countryman B6, where the capsule is about the size of a pinhead. It's very, very tiny. That would go right here in the thin piece of string that the talent was wearing. We had to carefully wire it around her back. And again, the whole thing's a string bikini, so we had to be a lot of tape, torn in half and carefully placed. And also more moisture is a concern, so you gotta try to find a way to do it without it getting soaked. And then the pack would be on the string in her back, or I had to run it down in a plastic bag and it had to go in the lower part of the bikini. I was brought on last minute because they fired the previous sound mixer because he was inappropriate with the girls. So again, diplomacy. This is a huge part of the job, especially if you're a man who's miking a woman. You must be sensitive that you're going into their personal space. Sometimes I try to give them the option to mic this part of it themselves, and letting them know that if it's not done properly, I will have to correct it. But you're asking, you're not telling. All of filmmaking is collaborative, and it will not do to have you be a pain in the ass. You will be replaced, and you will be replaced very quickly if you're difficult to work with. Respect the chain of command. That's another piece of advice. There was one situation where the producer came in because the schedule was blown up, and so the producer came on and said, "We're way behind schedule. It looks good enough. Roll sound." And the director said, "We're not ready yet. Don't roll sound. Roll sound. Don't roll." And I'm looking back and forth between the two of them. And the producer, again, pardon my French, but this is what he said, looked at me and said, "I sign your paycheck, roll sound." And I went, "Speed, sorry, dude," to the director. It was ugly. All right, we're on to the next gig. The best compliment that you can pay the sound department, unfortunately, is, "Oh, I didn't even notice." You know, people don't notice the sound, but they do notice bad sound. I'm proud of the soundtracks I delivered. I do love this industry. I love filmmaking. I love storytelling. I love being a part of that. You get one life. You're gonna spend more time working than pretty much anything else, and I believe in being happy with your work. That's what really keeps me in the game.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'd love it if you subscribe to our channel so that we can keep bringing you more creative people and their experiences. Thanks again for watching.